tonight as the crowd acknowledges the return of Duncan Keith.
Cricket, no lane there. Now snapped off and put it over top. Taken by Seth Jones. Patrick Kane takes to the stick. Looking for the cat. He shoots. Oh, it never got through. Great block out in front now. The score! Kane gave it back to the cat. The first one blocked by CC. The second one not. Hawks win! Hawks win as to bring it. It's set up by Kane.
And welcome to Interesting to See, your daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, and gambling. I'm Nick. Look at that kid. How adorable. Screaming. The Hawks win. Chicago Blackhawks defeat the Edmonton Oilers by a score of 4-3 in overtime. Duncan Keith returns to Chicago. We covered that yesterday. Nice little highlight for you guys. Today we're going to talk about Coach K and his shenanigans and the NBA Combine. But, the NBA, the NFL Combine. We are going to start today, however, with more updates on Russians getting kicked out of stuff. The first thing, Russian hockey player superstar Alexander Ovechkin has been dropped by CCM along with some other Russian players in all of their marketing campaigns. I believe that this is like a conduct unbecoming, or I don't know what's going to happen. CCM has big deals with the biggest stars. That includes Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, and of course Alexander Ovechkin, and they've been dropped. Also, this is the most interesting thing, I think. Russian and Belarusian athletes have been banned from the Winter Paralympic Games. So after the Olympic Games, there's always like a Paralympic Games or a Special Olympic Games in the same country. That country is China. So the interesting thing about this to me is that China and Russia have appeared to be in bed for this whole thing for a long time, and China is now banning these guys, which is an interesting move. I don't know what to make of that, to be honest. Geopolitically, can you read into that? I don't know, but it's an interesting signal that China's like, oh, guys, or is it the IOC getting independence from China and Russia? So the Olympics have been in Beijing twice in 14 years, and they've been in Russia. Pretty obvious what's going on there. So the fact that they've been banned is, I don't know, I think that's bad news for Russia. Really cool story here out of Tennessee in college basketball. We'll use this to segue into college basketball. Zakai Ziegler's family house burned down. He's a college basketball player for the University of Tennessee. Everyone started a GoFundMe page. He promoted his GoFundMe page on Twitter. And as a result of that, it's reached about $250,000 to help his family, which burned down, which is an important kind of situation because I don't know that this would be something that he could actively promote. I'm not sure that he would be allowed to actively promote this prior to name, image, and likeness. So kind of a cool moment there. Everybody's helping out the Ziegler family. Coach Mike Krzyzewski will be coaching his last basketball game this Saturday against the University of North Carolina. It has already become annoying. The college basketball game day crew has been in Krzyzewskiville, which is in Durham, North Carolina. They've been there for like days already. They're already camped out for this basketball game. And it's weird. North Carolina and Duke just never seem to be good at the same time. I don't know how they manage that. But here we are. Duke is good. North Carolina is not. They're going to play in the last game. It's also Roy Williams' last game, I guess. Coach Krzyzewski has requested to be placed in the Midwest region of the NCAA tournament. The other region, the closest region geographically to Duke, which is usually how the tournament does it, is closest geographically, is Philly. But he wants to go to Chicago, which is where he's from. And apparently that is not that weird, but also what if someone else wants to go to the Midwest? Like, what if Purdue ends up being a number 1 seed and they want to play in Chicago? It's going to be weird. He's already being annoying about this. No surprise there. Anything? Let's check some college basketball scores. Okay, so the Duke and North Carolina game is tomorrow, 6 p.m. I will be watching it outside because it's nice in North Carolina where I live. Just scanning some scores yesterday. Nothing of note really at all. College basketball tournaments today. The Big South tournament. Longwood plays North Carolina A&T. That's at noon if you want to skip some work and watch some basketball. You also got Northern Iowa, Illinois State in the Missouri Valley tournament. That's at 1, and then another game at 2. The Big South tournament again. So like a lot of college basketball to be watched during the day today. Then big conferences wrap up their conference schedule. Arkansas, Tennessee, that'll be the best game of the weekend other than Duke and North Carolina. And as we head toward the weekend, the big conferences will have their conference tournaments next weekend. Get ready for some March Madness. The NFL Combine going on, and this is a cool moment. This quarterback, if you can see it on YouTube, I'm not going to play it for you. There's a homeless, what appears to be a homeless man. I got to say, what appears to be a homeless man. Someone who is just sitting on the street corner asking for money. This person may or may not be homeless. They may or may not have some challenges in their life. And that's Malik Willis, elite quarterback prospect, offering up his stuff. I believe some clothes that he got to the Combine. This person is right there next to St. Elmo's Steakhouse, which is where all of the guys go to eat. And if you haven't been on Twitter, during the Combine, the St. Elmo's stuff is so effing annoying. I really can't reiterate how annoying it is. All these beat writers are like, we're going to go to St. Elmo's. Okay. So look at Malik right there being kind. He had a really great throw yesterday that you'll see around the internet for the next months. Apparently, the stopwatch is broken at the NFL Combine because everybody is running preposterous times. Simply absurd times. Tyquan Thornton of Baylor, 4.2. These are averages, right? The official time. So it takes 2 and it averages them out. We have a 4.28, a 4.31, a 4.32, 2 4.33s, a 4.34, a 4.36. That's from Christian Watson, one of the bigger prospects. And then the 2 biggest prospects, I would argue, possibly, that are healthy and at the Combine, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, 4.38, 4.39 for the 2 Ohio State wide receivers. Man, they probably should have figured out a national championship out of that team, huh? Yeah. Sky Moore, 4.41, 4.42, 4.43 with a couple of guys. A lot of big times. The big story, though, yesterday was Kenny Pickett and his wee little hands. Kenny Pickett, the quarterback prospect from the University of Pittsburgh or whatever they call it, Pittsburgh College, Pittsburgh Community College, whatever. He measured his hands at 8.5 inches, and that's big because that's historic. So this is from Warren Sharp at Sharp Football. He's got a contract with The Ringer, and he does a lot of gambling stuff on Twitter. He's pretty great if you're into gambling. He does some interesting stats. He's a bit of a curmudgeon and a bit of an analytics curmudgeon. This is his tweet on some perspective. Quote, perspective on Pickett's 8.5-inch hands, which 8.5 people thought they'd be much shorter than that, and everyone suspects that he did some hand stretches to make it longer. He also complained of being double jointed, which makes it weird to measure hands, I guess. Of 663 quarterbacks with measured hand sizes since 1987, only 9 of those 663 had hands smaller than 8.5 inches. There is no QB in the NFL with 8.5-inch hands. There has been no QB to enter the NFL in the last 5 years with 8.5-inch hands. The last successful QB with 8.5-inch hands was Mike Vick. So this is bad. The problem is it has a lot to do with ball possession and how easy it is to sack fumble these guys. So Kenny has been playing with 2 gloves. I don't know how long it's been happening at Pitt, but it happened this year. And he had 9, 8, and 8 fumbles in his first 3 years at Pitt. This year he only had 2, but that's bad. If you're Pittsburgh or Denver or even a team that plays in a conference like that, if you were theoretically if Buffalo needed a quarterback, Detroit if they need a quarterback, you play in Green Bay and Chicago once a year, can't have this guy, man. Can't have this guy. And if you're wondering why Jared Goff is trending on Twitter yesterday, that is why, because of Kenny Pickett's small hands. Jared Goff also has small hands, but they're not that small. I want to give you a heads up about this guy, Kent Lee Platty. It's at MathBomb on Twitter. He does this RAS thing, and what he does is he takes this spreadsheet and he creates an overall metric for combine success. So you can see this guy, David Bell. Red is bad, okay? And what he does is he ranks where people measure and how they work out compared to other people at their position and then also compared to everybody else in the history of the combine. So, for example, and then as there's more data points, there are more averages. So this guy, and now he's been picked up by people. RAS, the RAS score is relative athletic score. So it's just a way to see the overall athleticism of a prospect. Some of the greatest prospect RAS scores have been indicative of guys who are athletic and good, but they still got to be good at football. An example would be from the Detroit Lions, one of the best offensive line prospects of all time from a RAS perspective was their center, Frank Ragnow. He was in the 95th percentile. I think, I could be wrong, but I think the greatest wide receiver RAS of all time, and I actually forget his name now that I'm thinking about it. It was the guy from Notre Dame who went in the 4th round to Baltimore, and he is not good. He was pretty good in college. He was really good in college. Thought 4th round, but he was the best, most athletic wide receiver ever. Can't catch the ball, and for some reason he can't get open. So there's more to it. But during Combine Week, these RASs, I highly recommend following Cantley Platty. It's just a cool way to stay up to date with what's going on in the Combine. He takes it all into account and gives you the answers like, how is this guy doing historically? Who else was good? I'm like, well, he's got all of them. He goes all the way back to like the 90s, I think, but who can be sure? Measurements and interviews are a good part of this. You'll see a lot of fake stories going around. One fake story I found going around today, like I got to scratch my head, I'm so itchy. The Lions head coach, Dan Campbell, this is fake, which is funny, allegedly made, this is not allegedly, it's fake. The fake story was that he made Desmond Ridder, a quarterback prospect from Cincinnati, who's a great prospect, made him drink a glass of milk because he's lactose intolerant and because he wanted to see how he could recite plays under pain, which is hilarious. That's a good joke. That's a good joke. I like that joke. That's funny. Combine. I'm into it, but I hate it. This is the time I would like to remind people that none of these people know what they're talking about, but they're so willing to pretend like they do. They're so willing to pretend like they know what they're talking about, which is super annoying. NBA scores from yesterday. The Atlanta Hawks beat the Bulls. The Bulls are on a bit of a slide. Remember, we talked about, despite them being in first place in the Eastern Conference, the bigwigs in Vegas are saying that the Bulls should not be favored to win the Eastern Conference. They had them behind 3 or 4 other teams. The Sixers got James Harden and whatever, and the Heat are good, which made no sense to me. It was kind of weird, but now you see maybe it was a schedule thing. Maybe that's why they're in first place. Now they're playing the Hawks, who also aren't that good. They were in the playoffs a couple times, but they're not like super duper elite or anything. And as a result of that, like, oh man, maybe should have taken that action on someone else. But the Warriors got slapped around by the Mavericks. Basketball's hard. Who the hell knows? The Clippers just throat stomped the Lakers. Remember, these guys are fighting right now for the last place in the playoffs. And God, the Lakers suck. God, hilarious. The Lakers suck. NHL scores from last night. Of course, the Chicago Blackhawks, they defeat the Edmonton Oilers in overtime. Edmonton, despite having 2 of the 5 or 6 best players in the world, at least on offense, can't figure it out. The Penguins destroyed the Lightning. I'm telling you, I like the Penguins to win the Stanley Cup. I like that as a bet. The Wild, too. I like the Wild. The Caps destroyed the Hurricanes. The Panthers are good. We keep talking about this every day. Canadian teams aren't great. The Coyotes beat the Avalanche. The Phoenix or the Arizona Coyotes, depending on what part of the country you're from, they beat the Colorado Avalanche. Oh, that's an enormous upset. Wow. What a weird win for them. What a weird win for them. You just never know. It's an 82-game schedule. You never know what can happen. Right. I'll be back in Better Than Ever on Monday. We're going to take the Duke and North Carolina game. I'm going to take it all in and enjoy watching it in my backyard. Not my backyard, my friend's backyard. Like, rate, review, subscribe, ask your friends, tell your family, etc., etc.